Nightfall draped the Transylvanian countryside in shadow as the train carrying Jonathan, Mina, Van Helsing, and Dr. Seward thundered through the mist. Mina trembled in Jonathan's arms, her face pale as the vampire's curse grew stronger. Every mile toward Dracula's castle pulled her deeper under his spell. Van Helsing studied the ancient maps, tracing the path to Castle Dracula. "We must reach him before the next moonrise," he warned, fearing that delay would trap Mina's soul forever. Jonathan clenched his fists, his heart burning with a mix of fear and fury. At dawn, they arrived in a remote village beneath the Carpathian Mountains. The villagers, pale with fear, refused to speak Dracula's name. An old woman pressed a silver crucifix into Mina's hand, whispering, "Only faith can save you now." As they rode toward the castle, the wind grew colder. Mina's visions grew more vivid, Dracula's voice echoed in her mind, promising eternal life by his side. Tears filled her eyes as she struggled against the darkness pulling her in. By nightfall, they reached the castle's outer gate. The iron doors groaned open, and a chill swept through the air. Van Helsing led the way, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched a vial of holy water. The walls seemed to breathe with unseen evil. Within the castle, Dracula stirred. The destruction of the sanctuary had weakened him, but Mina's blood gave him strength. From the shadows, he watched the intruders approach, his crimson eyes burning with hatred and desire. In the grand hall, Van Helsing spread sacred wafers across the floor, creating a barrier against the vampire's power. Mina's breaths grew shallow as she sensed Dracula's presence. Jonathan held her close, praying they were not too late. Suddenly, a distant cry pierced the silence. Dracula's brides are here, their pale forms lighted through the darkness. Van Helsing warned, "Do not meet their eyes, they are death itself." The hunters braced for the battle ahead. The air grew thick with malice as the vampire brides descended. Jonathan struck the first with a silver dagger, while Van Helsing cast holy water, sending another shrieking into the shadows. But more emerged, hungry for blood. Mina's head throbbed as Dracula's call grew stronger. In her mind, she saw him waiting beneath the castle, his coffin hidden deep within the earth. "He is below," she whispered weakly. Van Helsing knew their time was running out. Jonathan and Van Helsing followed a winding staircase into the crypt. The air grew colder, thick with the scent of decay. At the bottom, they found a stone chamber, Dracula's coffin resting in its center. As Van Helsing began the ritual, the stone lid creaked open. Dracula's eyes blazed red as he rose, his power swelling in the darkness. "You cannot destroy me," he hissed, his voice echoing through the chamber. Jonathan lunged forward, driving a stake toward the vampire's heart. But with inhuman speed, Dracula caught his wrist, his grip like iron. Mina's cry rang out from above. In her vision, she saw Dracula's final sanctuary, a hidden chamber beneath the castle. Weak but determined, she stumbled toward the secret door, her heart pounding with fear. Dr. Seward followed Mina, guiding her to the hidden passage. As they entered the chamber, they found a second coffin surrounded by earth from Dracula's homeland. This was his true resting place, the source of his power. With trembling hands, Mina placed the crucifix on the coffin. The wood began to burn, releasing a low, anguished growl. Jonathan and Van Helsing burst into the chamber, their faces pale from the battle below. Dracula appeared before them, his form twisted with rage. "You cannot defeat death," he spat, his voice dripping with malice. But Van Helsing stood firm, raising his stake high. In one swift motion, Jonathan plunged the stake through Dracula's heart. A blood-curdling scream shook the chamber as the vampire's body convulsed. Dark mist poured from his form as the curse began to break. Mina collapsed to the ground as the mark on her neck faded. The vampire's hold over her was shattered. Tears filled Jonathan's eyes as he cradled her, relief washing over him. Van Helsing delivered the final blow, beheading Dracula's corpse. The vampire's remains crumbled into dust, and the castle trembled as if its evil had been purged. light began to seep into the chamber. As dawn broke, the castle stood silent. Dracula was no more. The shadow that had haunted them was lifted, but the scars of their battle would remain forever. Mina, freed from the curse, held Jonathan's hand tightly. They emerged from the ruins, the rising sun warming their faces. For the first time in months, hope filled their hearts. Van Helsing knew their victory came at a cost. Evil could be defeated, but never fully destroyed. He vowed to remain vigilant, knowing that the darkness could always return. Jonathan and Mina left Transylvania behind, seeking peace and a new beginning. But in the far corners of the world, unseen forces stirred. The eternal battle between light and darkness was far from